Clemson Hotline is on the air, a one-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak. Clemson Hotline is direct from Tiger Country on the network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina. And as always, a podcast edition of our show is available for download in iTunes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back into the program. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you once again doing the program live on the front page of Vocal. That's VOKLE.com. We've got the chat room rolling. I've seen Chris, Josh, and Nathan in there already, and a bunch of other people getting ready to join us, I'm sure. And Clemson moves into the top 10 in both major polls, and the BCS rankings are out. Where do your Tigers stand? We'll talk about that. We'll look back to the game against Wake Forest, the week that was, if you will, where there were a number of upsets ahead of Clemson that really helped them out. And right now, you might not like where you are because you feel like you should be a little bit higher. But I'll give Clemson a lot of credit in this. They made a quick climb in the BCS polls, and now's the time when you go out and execute and don't lose to anybody you shouldn't lose to. And that means handling business the rest of the way, in my opinion, when you consider South Carolina's loss of Marcus Lattimore. We'll be back with more on the Clemson Hotline right here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network right after these messages. Stay with us, Tiger fans. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
I have some exciting news for sports fans out there. Or if you like to go to concerts or theater, this is for you too. I'd love to take my two sons to a football game, but geez, have you seen the prices of those tickets? But I've discovered a new site called scorebig.com, and get this, you can get tickets to NFL, baseball, NBA, always below box office price guaranteed. It turns out that all the venues want their events to look like they're sold out. This scorebig.com grabs the unsold tickets and sells them at huge discounts, so you can save up to 60% on VIP tickets. And there's even more exciting news for radio listeners. Go to scorebig.com right now and you'll get an extra $10 off your first purchase. That's an extra $10 off already incredibly low price tickets. Now, this is a limited time offer, so don't wait. The only way to get an extra $10 off is to go to scorebig.com and type in the promo code 5858 at checkout. That's scorebig.com, promo code 5858.
G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
Ladies, how many pounds have you gained since you turned 40? If you're like most women, probably 10 or more. But hundreds of thousands of women have discovered the secret to losing weight after 40. It's called Amberen, and it's the only product on the market today clinically proven to cause sustained weight loss for women over 40. With no special diets or exercise programs, you can try Amberen absolutely risk-free and get a 1-month supply free by calling 1-800-685-0205. The leading cause of weight gain in women over 40 is hormonal imbalance. balance. Until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Amberin balances hormones naturally, so the extra weight can fall right off. Yes, even that stubborn tummy fat. Plus, Amberin relieves other symptoms of hormonal imbalance, like hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, sleeplessness, and more. Be one of the first 50 callers right now, and they'll send you a complimentary risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Free supplies are limited, so call now. 1-800-685-0205. That's 1-800-685-0205.
Hit 'em hard, lay 'em down, do it for your town. Clemson football, they be shutting it down. Chad Kelly QB, repping for his team. You can hate him, you can love him, you ain't stopping the dream. Hit 'em hard, lay 'em down, do it for my town. Clemson Tigers, they be shutting you down. Chad Kelly QB, repping for his team.
That is obviously for the guys in the chat room who love a little bit of the third-string quarterback at Clemson University, the kid who will not touch the field this year. It would take a full amputation, I think, of somebody to get that young man on the field. They're going to redshirt him, no doubt about it. But welcome back into the program. Appreciate everybody being here with us once again. Hashtag TN Talk. Yes, that young man, Mr. Kelly, will not be on the field this year. They are going to redshirt him at all costs. I can't imagine a scenario that will put him in because he is. When you look at the quarterback situation, Tajh Boyd next year being a senior, assuming he returns, and I got to tell you, Tajh Boyd playing some phenomenal football. I don't think I need to point that out to anybody. But when you look at kind of staggering those two guys, I think next year you'll have a Tajh Boyd back. You'll get a CK1 playing. See, I'm staying away from that name. I don't want to drop the name because I'm not wearing a hoodie. If I had a hoodie on, I could say his name. Josh and Nathan in the chat room going back and forth a little bit, talking about Maryland and their struggles. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the things going on, the injury with Marcus Lattimore. But how about Maryland? I mean, they've got a backup quarterback who is a linebacker now playing for them. But first off, let me do this. Hashtag TN Talk. That's the way you can tweet to us. You can chat with us in the chat room, live on Vocal, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Come on in. Wednesday nights at 9 as well. We'd love to hear from you here on the program. Clemson Hotline and TigerNet Talk. Email us, clemson81@gmail.com. Phone line, 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086. And last but not least, I guess, follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. You could read all that. You could before the Vocal 2.0 upgrade. I'm still complaining about it. They said they're going to fix it. I've got people posting double, so we've got a lot of issues going on with Vocal right now. I want to stay with these guys. We've been at the top. We've slipped back a little bit. We may continue to slip some, but altogether, I'm not excited right now about the vibe I get here as people continue to struggle with audio, video quality, double, triple posting in the chat room, which I know can be a big issue. But welcome back, Mr. Sammy Watkins. It was good to have you involved in another Clemson Tiger game and really being impactful. Sammy with 8 catches for 202 yards, doubling his season's output in this game against Wake Forest on a Thursday night, a game where you finally had that feeling that Sammy Watkins was not only back on the field, but back playing up to the level in which he played last season. That kid had a catch and run that was a thing of beauty down the sidelines. The first play of the second quarter, that 61-yard touchdown pass to break a couple of tackles and then get in the open field, spin the linebacker around, and the best line of the night, or one of the best lines of the night. I'll give Reese Davis some credit for his, we're getting into a good old-fashioned behind whipping, I believe, or a behind kicking was one of the phrases Reese Davis said. But David Pollock's line of headlights when Watkins got behind the defenders was a nice one. And had Boyd not missed on a couple of throws to Sammy Watkins, I'll be honest with you, he may have had 3 touchdown grabs and 250-plus yards. He breaks the Clemson record for yardage in a game. Sammy Watkins, that is. You can also give that same compliment to Tajh Boyd. Boyd goes 27 for 38, 428 yards, 5 touchdowns in the first half to 5 different receivers, and only had 4 incompletions. You talk about being on it. You talk about being wide open. That guy is playing some good football. I got to give a lot of credit. I have to give a lot of credit to this Clemson coaching staff because they really molded his mindset in the offseason. He doesn't let a few bad plays bother him. He doesn't let a bad incompletion or a drop bother him. This young man, Tajh Boyd, has grown tremendously in the offseason. And let's talk about him running the football, too. I know you don't exactly like him carrying the ball. He's kept his weight down. He continues to be very quick on his feet. And on the first scoring drive of the game for the Clemson Tigers, it was Tajh Boyd's smart play on a 3rd and 3 to extend the football to pick up that first down. His attention to detail is unprecedented as I've seen in a Clemson Tiger quarterback in a long, long time. I don't remember a quarterback. I'll give Charlie Whitehurst I'll put him right in that same mix. I think Whitehurst had a tremendous attention to detail in the passing game, but Tajh Boyd seems to do it in all phases. He knows exactly where he needs to be. He's in complete control of this offense. Right after that 3rd and 3 was a couple plays later. He hits Watkins down to the 10. You know how we score there to Brandon Ford. On the night, he had 16 carries for 27 yards, but they were very effective. Very effective. The only time I saw him get a little bit rattled was when there was some tremendous pressure, and Boyd threw that ball backwards, but they did call him down. That led to the first missed Chandler Catanzaro field goal in a long time, and ultimately cost me winning the pick'em on TigerNet. I gave you a score of Clemson 45, Wake Forest 17. David Hood gave you 41-17. And had that field goal gone through, and had we not been backed up, yours truly, that's right, you folks who are tuning in would be looking at the winner of this week's TigerNet predictions of the quote-unquote experts. My dad always told me that an expert, if you broke that down, you break it down to an X and a spurt, X being a has-been, and a spurt, which is a drip under pressure. So I don't know if I exactly want to be classified as such, but if that's what they're going to classify me as, I'll take it. One other thing I did like, David Pollock said, Clemson's offense has an answer for everything. Stay with us, Tiger fans. More Clemson Hotline right around the corner.
Low country.
This is Coach Dabo Sweeney of the Clemson Tigers, and you're listening to the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Appreciate Coach Dabo Sweeney welcoming you back into the Clemson Hotline. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Tommy Chastain on Twitter has made it in the building, ladies and gentlemen. They used to say when Elvis has left the building, I'm letting you know when Tommy has entered the building. Everybody's in the chat room having a good time. They want me to say it. I'll say it for them. I don't have a hoodie. They want me to wear a hoodie every time I say the name Chad Kelly. Now, I know I need to put it on. I know they're going to go crazy in there right now. But I have to explain myself. I explained it to them. It is very hot in the studio. If you can only imagine, I've got 5 monitors of significant detail here. I've got the complete setup recording. It just gets a little bit warm. 3 CPUs. I know that's no excuse. That's no excuse for not having a hoodie on anytime you say the name Chad Kelly. But I'll tell you this. If the weather is cool, Wednesday night, 9 p.m., I'll have on a hoodie, and I will do every single thing that I have agreed to. They put forth the motion a few weeks ago, and they kind of run the show here. I mean, I used to be in charge of things. Not anymore. Josh checks in the chat room. Says it's 54 degrees and 28-mile-per-hour wind on Tuesday. Actually, you know what? That reminds me. Wednesday night, we will not be doing the show. Halloween. So it'll be a Thursday edition of TigerNet Talk at 9 p.m. I hope you all will join us. And I also want to mention that we've got Brenton listening to us out in San Francisco. He picks up the program through the podcast edition. And he contacted me on TigerNet to let me know he enjoyed the programming. And that's the one thing I want people to realize about our programs. It's not just for people in Clemson. It's for Clemson fans around the world. And I want to encourage the guys in the chat room real quick to drop in there. Where are you from? I'd love to see where you all live, how you tune into the program. I hope that you will be one of those people who will come in and check out what we're doing, whether you get us through the Stitcher application on your phone. You can listen to it through the podcast application on your phone. Maybe you watch us live on Vocal or on the YouTube edition if you like watching the video where you can actually read what's below me. You used to be able to read what was below me on Vocal. Now, Clemson becomes just the second team since 1995 to score 37 or more points in 7 straight games. That was the 1995 FSU team who got that done as well. And this Clemson team continues to click. I'll tell you one thing that's really worked is that hot pass, where you've got the running back, you ride him into the line of scrimmage, really a tough play action play for the linebackers. They get sucked up. Tajh Boyd just throws a laser beam over the top. Every single time those linebackers at Wake Forest were having a bite, and you've got to stay honest against this Clemson Tiger team. But Boyd and Watkins heating up in this game against Wake Forest, I think, opens up the schedule for Clemson tremendously in the remaining games, going to Duke and then the final 3 at home against Maryland, NC State, and South Carolina. Because Nuke Hopkins has been almost the talk of college football. We've got some, let's see, Chris is checking in from Anderson. Josh picked us up first in South Dakota when he was in grad school. We've got the mayor of his cul-de-sac in Easley, Newberry, checking in. So mostly people here in the state of South Carolina, but I do hear from a lot of people from outside the state that listen to us, and I do appreciate you all. I know I tell you that a lot, but without you guys, there's really no reason to do it. If I was doing the show for myself, I could just sit in here and not bother putting it out there on the internet and just talk to myself for an hour. So you guys do a fantastic job of firing me up each and every week to come back here. But what has that done maybe for Nuke Hopkins? Maybe a mid-season rebirth. 3/4 of the way into the year, we might just see an energized and revamped Nuke Hopkins who has more opportunities coming his way. Because it's not like Sammy Watkins just came in to this game against Wake Forest and said, you know what, I'm doing pretty good this season. He came in and said, you know what, I'm back. And now if you're a defensive coordinator, you've really got to respect both guys. And how many teams out there, Pollock and those guys were talking about it during the game, who do they think are the best tandem of wide receivers? David Pollock said, I think it's these guys. Now, on the flip side of that, you had other people who disagree. And for me right now, the way these two guys are playing, if Sammy can continue to play at this level, if DeAndre Hopkins can play at the level that he's playing, I think we're good to go as probably having the top 2 guys. I've said it all along. I know Southern Cal's got a lot of talent. I know West Virginia, but I like the size, the physicality, the route running these guys have, the way they fight for the football. Palmer didn't agree. Palmer said, I completely disagree. Yes, Nathan in the chat room. Marquise Lee was unbelievable. He was. The numbers he put up against Arizona were crazy. I think like 345 yards. I believe that was the number. Chris, if you don't mind, pull that number for me and let me know if it was 345. It may have been 342. But he was outstanding. But I still think these two guys right now, as well as they've played this season, including Sammy's issues that he had off the field and missing some games, he looks back 100%. I think those two as a combo, I said it before, if they didn't make another catch, they're the best to ever play. It was 345, Brandon's telling me in the chat room, and lost. That's what I thought. I knew they lost. That was a big deal for Clemson in the polls. And as I mentioned, Clemson did move up in the polls into the top 10 in both major polls. In the coaches poll, your Clemson Tigers at 7-1 are sitting at number 9 behind Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Kansas State, Oregon, and Alabama. And here's what I'll say to you about that. Everybody in front of you in the coaches poll right now has pretty much at some point this year been deemed a team who was capable of winning the national title. I think that's a very legitimate statement to make. Everyone, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Kansas State, Oregon, and Alabama, all of those teams have been taught in the national championship picture. At number 9, your Clemson Tigers, the one team of that group that have not been taught as such. In the AP, we're one spot lower, and that's because the AP ranks Ohio State. So you've got Clemson at 10 in the AP poll, Florida State, Florida, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Notre Dame, Kansas State, Oregon, and Alabama at number 1. South Carolina is number 11 in both polls. Just a little tidbit for you people out there. The argument continues, Alabama or Oregon. I see it in the chat room. I see it on TV, and that's the problem with this system. And I hate getting into the BCS talk right now, but I just want to say something about it. You don't hear people in the NFL saying right now, how are the Falcons going to play in the Super Bowl versus Team Y, whoever from the AFC? And the reason is because their system doesn't depend on every little thing you do in the regular season. And it doesn't make their regular season any less interesting or any less valuable. That's the one thing that expanding this to a 4-team and eventually an 8 and 16-team playoff will do. We will get rid of the chatter of these eyeball tests. We constantly are using eyeball tests to look at teams, but then when it comes down to, and that's for the voters, but then when it comes down to it, we're running all these numbers. It's either the eyeballs or the numbers. I don't feel like you can have it both ways. I just completely disagree with the way we do it, and I cannot wait until we expand enough that we don't have to deal with this stuff anymore, because it's unfair for teams like Clemson, for maybe teams like Louisville, for teams who have fought hard all season and maybe have one slip up against a team like Florida State, but then you're penalized because somebody like Auburn is having a bad season. You're penalized because Virginia Tech is not living up to their expectations. Why should their expectations be my expectations? It really bugs me that we even have to deal with that in this day and age. It goes back and forth. Well, they pass the eyeball test? If it all came down to the eyeball test and not what happened on the field, wouldn't South Carolina have dropped in the polls with that terrible, terrible injury to Marcus Lattimore? Wouldn't the voters have said, you know what, they really lost a big key to their offense, and an offense that's not that great, maybe we should vote them down this year because the eyeball test for them right now isn't what it used to be. If Marcus Lattimore wasn't on that team at the beginning of the season because of an injury in the offseason, people would have voted them down. It's a natural occurrence. It's the eyeball test. But yet if the top player on the top team goes down in season, we don't look at the eyeball test. We just say, well, what have they done this year? Who have they beaten? That's the thing that really bugs me about it. You can't have it both ways. Either they do or they don't pass the eyeball test. Either they have their running back or they don't. I actually had a Gamecock fan say to me after the Wake Forest game, he said, first off, he says, look, I tuned in right when you guys ran that reverse, and I just was wondering, why do you guys feel like you need to run a play like that against Wake Forest? Why do you run those gimmicky plays? Okay, a couple of reasons. One, that was really the only gimmicky play we ran the whole night. He just happened to catch it. Number two, it keeps people honest. We run so much of that eye candy, as you like to call it. If you don't throw it in there every once in a while, people aren't going to be honest. It makes our bluffs become legitimate. Plus, off of a turnover when the score's 28-0, we know this about Chad Morris. He's a gunslinger. He's going to take a chance. He's not afraid to throw the ball downfield. He's off a tailback pass, off of a wide receiver screen that turns into a pass. The man is not scared at all to take some chances. I think a lot of Clemson fans like it. Just because the Gamecock fans might not doesn't bother me. And how about that Clemson Tiger defense? We'll talk about them when we get back. Maybe it was the competition, but they have looked improved over the past 2 ball games with a big game at Duke, a Duke team that likes to throw the football around. Will this Clemson Tigers secondary be able to stand up against the Blue Devils, who have played, I would say, out of their minds this season, but they do close with a tough stretch with remaining games against Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Miami. Stay with us here for more Clemson Hotline. Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2.
If occasional digestive issues are making you feel twisted up, count on Digestive Advantage from Schiff. Its advanced probiotic survives to deliver good bacteria where you need it for healthy digestion. Take the Digestive Advantage 14-day challenge with a money-back guarantee. Go to digestiveadvantage.com for details. The probiotic that survives. That's the Digestive Advantage. Take the 14-day challenge at digestiveadvantage.com.
Hey, honey.
Hi, Dad.
What you drawing?
It's our house. That's you.
Oh.
Me.
Huh?
Mom and Josh.
Wow.
Playing ball.
You are becoming quite the artist.
When you're a kid, you don't know that home ownership builds communities, that owning a home contributes to higher self-esteem and better test scores. You just know that home is where you play, grow, and learn. The National Association of Realtors wants you to know that home ownership matters to our families, our neighborhoods, and our country. Learn more at houselogic.com/homeownership.
If you want to work until you drop, reduce your standard of living in retirement, or lose more of your hard-earned money in the stock market, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to generate a steady, predictable income, I'm talking real wealth and financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. A free report is now available that reveals the money-making secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. It reveals how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your money in the Wall Street casino. To get your free special report, visit bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com.
Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
CBs can't stop it, throwing passes like rockets. First play on the field, you know it's going down. 4,000 plus yards, 41 touchdowns. Number 1 cause we win it, All State cause I'm winning, Conley Cup cause I'm winning, Elite 11 cause I'm winning, Under Armour All-American, can't forget to mention. Did my thing at Joe's, now I'm gonna take my talents to Clemson. Watch how I touch down, Chad Kelly. Hit the field, it's going down, Chad Kelly.
Oh yeah, that's what we talk about right there. I don't know why that kid is so popular with people right now in the chat room. They are all over him, though. I appreciate y'all being here with us for the Clemson Hotline, and I'm trying to figure out, for some reason, the little stack. There we go. I think I figured out what was going on. Somehow it was caught up in a loop. I'm glad I got my volume down, or else the commercial break was going to kick back off for everybody to enjoy another little run there of commercials. But we got it put away. And I want to talk briefly about the eyeball test thing again and why it really bothers me, because people always say, and if you read TigerNet, you've probably seen my rant on this, but they haven't beat a team with a winning record. Well, no one in America, based on the criteria that people put on it, for example, if Clemson plays a 4-3 team and we win, they go to 4-4, and then people say, well, you haven't beat a team with a winning record. Well, nobody in America can beat a team with a winning record if you use that criteria until at least week 3. And what are the numbers? I'm not sure what they are at that point, and it doesn't get much bigger. I bet if you go out and go through everybody in America and say who's beaten a team with a winning record, you'd be surprised at how many teams have actually beaten with a winning record. That's just the nature of beating somebody. It drops them down a notch. And only occasionally at the back end of the season are you going to start running into teams who, when you do beat them, have that buffer zone of a 2-game, being 2 games to the positive to defeat them. It's completely, it is an utterly useless argument that people constantly make on ESPN and on message boards and on Twitter. Well, they haven't beaten anybody with a winning record. Well, I don't want to lose to anybody with a losing record. That's what's important. You don't want to lose to anybody with a losing record. It's okay if you beat people that have winning records and you force them into a losing record. That's called winning. Get a grip. I can't stand that we hear that. But this Clemson Tiger defense has played much better. Tig Willard all over the field. I love his effort. I love his enthusiasm. We talked about Spencer Shuey this past week about how he had really stepped up. I like to see my linebackers really stepping up. And Shuey made a little bit of a boneheaded play, but you know what? He hit somebody, and he hit them hard. And that's what people like to see. You don't like penalties, and Dabo Swinney, was frustrated. I agree. I was getting to – I feel like you guys can see my show notes here. Vic Beasley. I do like the single-digit – I like him and Barnes, the single-digit defensive lineman, but Beasley's speed and athleticism, if he can avoid being engaged, if he can disengage when he is engaged, he has a ton of talent and strength and speed. That's what I like most about him. He gives us that outside threat off the edge. And it was funny. This is where I saw some people talking in the chat room. It was funny to see Keith Adams holding back Brent Venables a couple of times from getting on the field. Funny story about Keith Adams. I remember talking with him as a junior in college. I was speaking with him, and I was telling him, I said, Keith, I really wish you would stay for your senior year, because I think we're going to have a very special team. And at this time, we were calling him Keith the Animal Adams. I mean, he was just making 20 tackles a game. He was flying all over the field. You knew he was a special player. And my college roommate, Kyle, walked up, and, of course, Keith stuck out, kind of to give a fist bump, or what we call when I grew up, dap. And Kyle tried to shake it. And you don't shake the dap. It's just not your cool points drop considerably when you try to shake the dap. And Keith Adams kind of looked at him, and then Kyle figured out what was going on and got the fist bump taken care of. But I remember for about 2 days after that, Kyle walking around just so disappointed in himself, like, it was Keith Animal, and I tried to shake the dap. You're supposed to fist bump there. Now, the only real disappointment that I had in this defense goes back to the points I was making on TigerNet Talk this past Wednesday night about our defense trying to keep the overall amount of points they give up at 200 for the entire season. We came into that game right at 181. We gave up 13, so we're at 194. We're still under the mark that many national championship teams have, but we got a lot of football left. We've got a third of the season remaining. A fourth of the season remaining. And giving up that garbage touchdown at the end of the half, it's 1:18 left in the half. When they get the ball, they're down 35-0. You had some bad penalties, a couple of 15-yarders, and Wake gets a cheap 7 points. So now you're at 194. You're 6 points off of the mark. If you really want me to be excited about the strides that we've made so far, if you want me to be fired up about what we've seen, let's go into Duke and somehow find a way to come out of there under 200. Let's see if we can be the first team this year to shut down Duke. And I would make that a goal for my defense coming in. I'd say, listen up, guys. This Duke team, they've put up a ton of numbers on almost everybody. Now, I know this past weekend against Florida State, they didn't do what they have done all season. They only put up 7. 48-7, the Seminoles got it done. In a game where you hoped, and much like me, that Duke or Virginia Tech is going to be the team to maybe clip the Seminoles here late. Hard to believe I just said Duke and beating the Seminoles, but you got to rely on somebody. That's what happens when you get out of the driver's seat. But Florida State did shut them down. 7 points for the Duke Blue Devils, and that should maybe be Clemson's goal. 6-7 points right there. If you come out of there and you're still at 200, 201 mark, you got a very good chance, I think, against a Maryland team who's going to be playing their fourth-string quarterback. You've got a real shot maybe to keep them out of the end zone and get into the final 2 games right at that mark. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to play for the national title, but at least that number is still well in range and you're not ballooning up into the 400s this season. I think that's the key thing. If Brent Venables at the end of the year wants people to say, you know what, we were very successful, if we're about 150 total points off of what happened last year, even minus 1 game if we don't get to the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship, I don't think a whole lot of people are going to be complaining about what happened early on. People will begin to say that it was just an adjustment period, that these guys were learning his system. Nathan in the chat room says he'll be happy with 17 or under at Duke. It's not to say that Duke is not going to score. But as a goal for me as the defense, I would really want to match everything Florida State's doing. And I think that's fair for what we expect from this defense right now. I know Florida State's one of the top in the country, but if you ever want to get there, you got to start drawing the line somewhere. And if it's on the road at Duke, night game with a real chance to put them away, and really hammer home their season for them, I think, at that point, you go ahead and get it done. Stay with us, though. More TigerNet Clemson Hotline right after this. Well, what I probably should do is just change the names of the programs to Clemson Sports Talk. That way I never get hung up in Clemson Hotline or Tiger Net Talk, which probably confuses a lot of you. But let me tell you, go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com, and you can hear both of these programs provided to you. That's the way we do it. We used to be ClemsonPodcast.com. We made a change over to Clemson Sports Talk because we felt like that didn't describe us as well as it should. I think I had a lot of people back in the day, I'd hand them a card, they'd say, I don't even know how to podcast. But now we've got Clemson Sports Talk, and the more cards I hand out, the better I feel. Of course, check us out at any home Clemson game. Of course, we'll be rocking our white on the prowl shirts. Clemson Sports Talk, come speak to me. I want to talk to you and hear what you have to say. 803-450-0086. You can take part in the program that way, or go, as I mentioned, to ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Over on the right, leave us a voice message 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We would love hearing from you. And we were talking about Chad Kelly earlier. Chris emailed me and said he heard during the Auburn game that Chad Kelly told Tajh Boyd what the defense was doing, but assuming that it was the coverage maybe that Chad Kelly had seen from the sidelines. He says he can't remember where he heard it, but that Chad Kelly was a very smart football player. Well, I don't think you get to the level that Chad Kelly played at high school and not be a very smart football player. And I think there's a lot of people in Clemson, in the chat room as well, that are excited about the opportunity to see what this young man could do. Right now, Clemson's scoring about every 16 plays. And you know how Chad Morris likes to speed and pace his offense, but he's really tried to avoid those 3-and-outs. Give him a lot of credit, though, because I think much like what I'm asking the defensive side of the football to do, and maybe they do and I just don't know about it, but I think I'd like to see them start setting some serious goals season long, and I'm sure they have them, but what are they? And where do they? Is that 200 number something that's unattainable for them? Well, we mentioned Clemson moving up in the polls and everything, and Dabo Swinney commented on Marcus Lattimore's injury. He said it just absolutely took my breath away. I was watching it, and it breaks my heart. I'm sorry for him and his family. This is a guy that represents all the good things that college football should be about. He's a class young man, and so is his family, and I know how hard he's worked. And I want to address a couple of things here about this issue with Marcus Lattimore and his injury. And it's a very strange subject, I think, for us to talk about here on the program. But I want to say this. The way you act when a Gamecock player or any player gets injured, only the worst fans of any team are happy about injuries. Only the worst type people are excited when others are hurt. The low life, no life, those kind of people are the people who are cheering a man like Lattimore or anybody else who goes down with a serious injury. All of these players in the NCAA are kids, basically. Many and most of them playing for the free ride to college to get their education. There are perks. Better housing, better food, better clothes, things that are provided. They get to travel. They get to go to bowl games. They get free gifts at those games. But none of them should ever play without the knowledge that it could come to an end at any moment. That their next play could be their last. But no player out there is giving up any more than the next guy either. Everybody's in the same wagon, whether you're playing at South Carolina or at Clemson. And if you're one of those Clemson fans that wants to send Marcus Lattimore a card, that's fine. I have no issue with that. But did you send a card to any of these Clemson players who recently were injured and out for the season? And it's not to say that Lattimore is any more important or the guys on Clemson's team are any less important. But I want you to think about that for a minute. And did you do that? And did our guys get anything from them? Now, his injury was much more devastating. That compounds the issue. Last year's injury compounds the issue. The fact that the young man is very well spoken. The fact that he seems very genuine and sincere. And in fact, that many Clemson people know a lot about him because of his playing days at Burns and the pride that he brought to a lot of people in the upstate by playing very good football and continuing at South Carolina to be someone that people could say, you know what, that's a good kid. That's a kid I'd like on my team. But I want to say this, too. After you've allowed yourself to feel bad, after you've sent your greeting cards or your get well cards, your sympathy cards, it's time to refocus on what's really important about Clemson and Carolina down the road this year, and that's, of course, beating the Gamecocks. Rest assured, Miles and Davis, they're not going to roll over because Marcus Lattimore is injured. They're not just going to say, well, we can't run the football. We're just going to take a knee when we get it. This is still a team in South Carolina that beat us last year without Marcus Lattimore. It was a hideous, awful injury. It was something that you wouldn't wish on anybody. And just, I watched it live, and it was grotesque. When it happened, I just said to my wife, I said, Well, I probably can't say exactly what I said, but I was like, oh no, it's over. I mean, you could just tell this was possibly a career-ending injury. And a dislocated knee, if you look it up, you're talking about multiple tears in that knee. I don't know if it's going to be ACL, MCL, PCL. I haven't read everything up on it just yet. But you're talking maybe 3 ligaments torn. Josh in the chat room says all ligaments in his knee were torn. And if it was dislocated and all the ligaments were torn, I'm assuming the leg was basically just held in there by the skin. But the injury's over. It's in the past. And I think everybody in college football, much like when other players go down, realize just the nature of the game is so violent. And I think everybody's thankful that this young man will be able to walk again. He is not paralyzed. There are much worse injuries that could occur, and it doesn't change the severity of maybe how that's going to impact his life. He may not be able to play football again. There have been players come back. Willis McGahee, Terry Allen. There have been players come back from injured knees, even injuring both knees, even just debilitating, torn apart, shattered legs. Those people recover. And I think Marcus Lattimore's got the willpower to recover. It looks like he's not going to be back, though, until the 2014 season. That's a whole year. If you would have told a Carolina fan that they would not have Clowney and would have Marcus Lattimore on their team in 2014 a few years ago, they'd have said, yeah, right, how is that possible? But that may be the case. A full year of rehab. A full year without Marcus Lattimore, perhaps, for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And I want to leave you with this because I think this is a fair thing to say. And I don't want to, and I know there have to be very good Gamecock fans out there. But what reaction do you think Gamecock Nation would have on Facebook if Sammy Watkins had the same injury? I'll be honest with you. I know very few Gamecock fans who I think would say, wow, that's terrible. Most of the Gamecock fans I know are the ha-ha, suits you right fans. And that's the sad case and the difference in my mind of us and them. Maybe I'm unfair. We'll be back. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
I have some exciting news for sports fans out there. Or if you like to go to concerts or theater, this is for you too. I'd love to take my 2 sons to a football game, but geez, have you seen the prices of those tickets? But I've discovered a new site called ScoreBig.com, and get this, you can get tickets to NFL, baseball, NBA, always below box office price guaranteed. It turns out that all the venues want their events to look like they're sold out. This ScoreBig.com grabs the unsold tickets and sells them at huge discounts, so you can save up to 60% on VIP tickets. And there's even more exciting news for radio listeners. Go to scorebig.com right now and you'll get an extra $10 off your first purchase. That's an extra $10 off already incredibly low price tickets. Now, this is a limited time offer, so don't wait. The only way to get an extra $10 off is to go to scorebig.com and type in the promo code 5858 at checkout. That's scorebig.com, promo code 5858.
Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you.
Ladies, how many pounds have you gained since you turned 40? If you're like most women, probably 10 or more. But hundreds of thousands of women have discovered the secret to losing weight after 40. It's called Amberin, and it's the only product on the market today clinically proven to cause sustained weight loss for women over 40. With no special diets or exercise programs, you can try Amberin absolutely risk-free and get a 1-month supply free by calling 1-800-685-0205. The leading cause of weight gain in women over 40 is hormonal imbalance. Until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Amberin balances hormones naturally, so the extra weight can fall right off. Yes, even that stubborn tummy fat. Plus, Amberin relieves other symptoms of hormonal imbalance, like hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, sleeplessness, and more. Be one of the first 50 callers right now, and they'll send you a complimentary risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Free supplies are limited, so call now. 1-800-685-0205. That's 1-800-685-0205.
Final segment of the Clemson Hotline. I'm your host, Lawton Swine. Hashtag TN Talk throughout the week on Twitter. All one word. Put it in there. That'll come to us. Email us, clemson81@gmail.com. And if you were watching the show on Vocal, you probably just saw that Vostok cooler. That's VOSTOK. Go to vostokcoolers.com. Chris says, sweet, but it needs a paw. It does, and they're working on it. Licensing with college sports is something that I looked into for a little while, and it is a real tough issue, and it's an expensive issue. That's the other thing. But they're working on it. They'd like to get one and to get the paw on there for you. But it's a cool-looking cooler, that football shape, really nice wheels. It's very well put together. Comes assembled completely. They are doing a great job, and I tell you, we're going to give away a Vostok cooler on Thursday night's Thursday night's TigerNet Talk. So I hope that you will join us. We're going to send it out to a text question. Josh says, is it too late for Sammy to make an All-American run? I would say yes to that, but if you think about the numbers that he put up against Wake Forest, if he could find a way, and I think if Tajh Boyd doesn't miss him on a couple of plays, Josh and everybody else, I think he goes for 250 plus. I think he just blows away any record Clemson has ever had. He's going to need significant numbers, though, the rest of the way to get any consideration and also really pick up on the touchdowns. But he has the talent to do it. And did Clemson call the Dogs off at some point in that game, being up 35-0? I think maybe a little bit, and then they got a little bit frustrated with the fact that, and Chad Morris, I think, putting the starters back in, realized, hey, we need to get a couple more points. Wake Forest started making a little bit of a push. Not that they were ever really back into the game, but it would take significant numbers over the next 4 ball games for Sammy Watkins to have himself an All-American type season. But he had an All-American type game and showed what he can do, and I would venture to guess that next year, coming in to the beginning of the season, he'll be number 1 probably on the list of preseason All-Americans. And if a guy like DeAndre Hopkins stays at Clemson, he'll certainly be right up there in the mix. Brandon asked, why did Corey Crawford not play much in the second half? You know, I don't know if Crawford had any injuries. I have not heard anything about that. But when you look at the play that we had up front of some of the other guys, we've mentioned Vic Beasley just a little bit ago, the job that he did. If you're not standing out right now for Brent Venables, I don't think he's got the time to deal with you out there. And Corey Crawford was not outstanding in the few plays that he was in. But altogether, I think we've seen an improvement on that defensive front. Those young guys, DJ Reader, I think Reader's getting a great deal. He has improved a great deal, I should say, over the past few ball games, and continues to be a young man that I think many people have more expectations for than when he came in. And I think at the beginning of the season, if you talked Carlos Watkins or DJ Reader, many people would have leaned to the Watkins camp right now I think most people are saying DJ Reader is going to be one of those can't-miss type prospects when you look at Clemson down the road. Well, we got to get out of here, folks. I know time flies here on the program. I do appreciate you all being with us once again on the Clemson Hotline, and we hope to hear from you real soon. Until then, though, I hope you have a great week, and we look forward to speaking with you Thursday night, 9 p.m. We had to move it because of Halloween for Tiger Net Talk. Until then, though, I'm your host, Lawton Swan, signing off. And Chris says it is time to go watch Homeland. I know exactly what you mean, Chris. Appreciate you all being here with us, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. Y'all take care now, and go Tigers!